Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvise Sasannivari Paschatya. Welcome everyone. Today is Monday, November 9th. It's 2020. Yesterday was Bahalastami. Today Lord Chaitanya discovered Radhakund. And we have Govardhan Puja and Srila Prabhupada's disappearance coming up this month. And today we're going to continue our discussions. I forget exactly what we discussed on Friday. We're discussing various aspects of Maya. We'll begin with Kirtan, and then we'll continue our discussion. And I have a topic that I think is interesting, but I just have to check the sound levels. We're recording on my computer. Hopefully the internet is going to be good. If the internet fails, don't go away. I will take out my phone and we'll use my phone. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Okay. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Vijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Vijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Vijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Shodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Shodhanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jasodha Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Jamuna Tira Banachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. So today, I want to begin with a topic, and we'll see where this topic takes us. It might take us right into reading the letters. It may not be something I would speak about for long. Or it may be, and it may stimulate some discussion. And I want to tell a story. Several years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago or so, a friend of mine who's a very good devotee, book distributor, teacher, scholar, I've been a brahmachari for many years, began thinking, as many men do, should I get married, shouldn't I get married? And then it's discussed. And if they're going to get married at some point, they become convinced that getting married would be the best thing. So he went through that, and then finally he made the decision. And I was trying to help him. I think he was meeting various women, or I was suggesting. And what happened is not the first time this happened. And just consider that he's a very good devotee and very, very well versed in scripture. And I would suggest some women, and he said, I'm not, they have to be, basically, to be blunt, basically, he would say more or less they have to be beautiful. Otherwise, I'm not interested, which I was trying to convince him of otherwise, that he shouldn't be thinking like that. But I couldn't convince him otherwise. And this happened on many occasions, where I would think, no, this woman here, she's the perfect woman. Yeah, but physically it's just not there. And I found this, and I'm sure you find this, especially if you're a woman, maybe you feel repulsed by this or offended, or you feel like makes you feel sick. Because you understand the non-devotee men think that way, but devotee men think like that? That's hard to conceive. And so in reflecting on this, the realization that I wanted to discuss today about how, of course, we're discussing about Maya and her many, many aspects. And I think this is one aspect of Maya in which we have knowledge, but we're not adjusting our attitudes, our consciousness, in a way that that knowledge is activating a change of consciousness or change of vision. I like to say change in the way we see the world. Because we have this concept, Shastra Chakshus. Chakshus means eyes or vision. So seeing through the vision of Shastra. So if you expand upon that idea, if I'm seeing through the vision of Shastra, then that would mean, at least at some point, my consciousness would be kind of like a vision for Shastra. Through my eyes, through my consciousness, I'm seeing as Shastra is describing. That means my beliefs, my attitudes, the way I deal with people, everything is on the basis of what Shastra is teaching us. So I see one of the problems, which is, of course, one of the challenges, is that we are the way we are. We hear something, we understand it, and we remain the same way that we are, as if the knowledge didn't do anything. Like sometimes I don't know if you've seen this, like you explain to somebody that something is bad, and they say, yeah, I know, I understand. And then they go out and do it, and you think, why did you do that? You understand that's bad. I mean, you may not tell them that, but you're thinking like that. And so this is I think, one of the maybe most unfortunate realities that we have to deal with, because the knowledge of Krishna consciousness is meant to change us. But if it doesn't change us, then it just becomes information that we know, but we remain the same. And that is, of course, a big aspect of Maya, because if we change our attitudes, if we change the way we see things and feel also based on the Shastra, then we're actually transforming our consciousness to be more aligned with what's in Shastra. And then our lives become more of an example of what's in the Shastra. And we wouldn't have this situation where, yes, I know, but, if she's not beautiful, I'm really not interested. But what if she's a good devotee? What if she's compatible? What if she's a nice person? Yeah, I know, theoretically, yeah. But if she's not beautiful, then I'm not interested. And then we sit back and think and say, oh, wait a minute, how many shlokas do you know? 326? I don't think you know any shlokas. I think you just become a parrot of those shlokas. So that's the challenge. And the reason I'm using this example of an advanced devotee is because it's such a deep challenge that it affects everyone, even on an advanced level of Krishna consciousness. So the next question obviously is, well, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with this? And I would say that one of the problems that we have is we more deeply embrace our conditioning than we deeply embrace our knowledge, or we more deeply embrace our conditioning than we embrace the potential for imbibing that knowledge and letting it transform us. And one of these areas, this was kind of a man talk, but it's I think applicable to everyone. But one of the problems that men have, I don't know how bad it was 100 years ago, but I do know it's worse now than ever. And I was reading some research about this and said every decade this gets worse. And that's respect for women. What is called, in modern terms, objectification, where you see a person more as an object of your pleasure and you dehumanize them. And so, unfortunately, in our culture today, because women are always used in advertising and beautiful women are considered valuable, slender women, beautiful faces are considered valuable. So the men become conditioned more and more by these images, what they call sexualized images, which are everywhere, to dehumanize women and see a woman's value in terms of her physical beauty. And so men grow up with that. It's not, in a sense, their fault. It's more the fault of society, or maybe the fault of their fathers and brothers and male figures that they don't, that they actually encourage this. So they grow up with this concept that women, men are more powerful, men control women, women are meant to be subservient to man, serve their pleasures, serve their needs, and really serve their sense gratification. And you might say, well, doesn't it say that in the scripture that women should be subservient and all this? Yeah, but the men were not objectifying the women who were doing that. They were not sexualizing the women. So when men objectify women and then women become subservient, then that's often abuse lies, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical, sexual. It often becomes a consequence. But that's another topic. But it's an interesting point, how something good becomes bad in the hands of the wrong person. But for the sake of this discussion, the concept of respect, which is there in the Trinadapi Sunichena verse, that I'm humble and I offer all respects to others. I think, when men who have been sexualized so much hear that, they don't naturally think of women, that I should respect women. They might think I should respect an aunt, and I should respect my guru and maybe my temple president. But they've been so jaded with this idea that women are meant to serve them, that the idea of respect for women, it almost becomes foreign. And you see this often when men get married and then they go to the Bhagavatam and all the subservient quotes come up, and then they want their wife to be like what I call the flight attendant wife. It just does, press the button and she does whatever they want. Which, of course, many women want to do that, and it's natural that women want to serve, and I'm not undermining that. But when that's exclusively their consciousness, and there's very little respect for them as devotees and facilitating their devotional service, and also serving them and helping them and significantly, then we have a problem, which comes down to lack of respect. And so also many men deal with the problem, which I call the following the fourth principle. So when I say the fourth principle, you can imagine what the fourth one is. It's not gambling. That's not a big one. Or meat eating. And intoxication. Just eat enough prasadam, you'll be intoxicated. It's the fourth one. No illicit sex. So now men are raised in a culture where women are not respected. Women are seen as potential for their enjoyment. And so when a man becomes brahmachari, or attempts to be brahmachari, or any man joins ISKCON and attempts to be sexually controlled, his greatest friend in the battle is respect for women. That's it. You don't exploit something you respect. Service, respect, service, humility. The greatest allies in the battle is to respect, because respect is the exact opposite of dehumanizing. Respect the female qualities. And now you women know that a lot of men are trained to not respect female qualities, but to respect so-called male qualities, and the female qualities are considered weak. So if a man is trained to think, the so-called male qualities, which we've been socialized to think are male qualities, domineering and control and power, anger. Anger is very male, and not to show any sign of weakness or breaking down. And so if that's true, that's considered male qualities, and most women don't possess those, at least not strongly, then the more female nurturing side qualities, community, kindness, vulnerability, are considered weaknesses, right? I just heard a really sad story. And boys were asked if, let's say you're on a sports team and your coach says, you're playing like a woman, how would that affect you? And then the boys say, that would completely destroy me. Totally destroy me. So what that means is that in the man's world, the way the boy's raised, the female qualities are all considered weaknesses. So if I've said you play like a woman, then that kills me, because women are inferior. They've done other experiments. My daughter showed me one. They had these guys and they said, run like a woman or do this like a woman, and then the boys would kind of like run kind of like they were just coordinated or something. But they do that with the girls. I forget what happened when they did it with the girls. The girls just, they go run like a girl, and the girls would like run really fast or something. So, the boys have this idea. Sad, isn't it? So it's a very disrespectful attitude. And so what research has shown is that disrespectful attitude is the cause behind rape, violence, and for the sake of this discussion, we don't see that a lot in ISKCON, but for the sake of this discussion, in maintaining some level of sexual control, the worst thing you can do is demean a woman, because demeaning a woman reduces her more to the subservient role, where you exist for my pleasure, and sexual pleasure being the main one. So the whole point of saying this is the best offense for a man who wants to be celibate, and the best thing for women also, is to respect them as equal of value as human beings, women have their feminine qualities, which a lot of men would do much better if they had a lot of those qualities. And respect that, and respect their respect them not only as devotees, not only as spirit souls, not only that Krishna's in their heart, but also all the other qualities they have. And so you're probably thinking now, there probably alarms are going off in your head going, uh-oh, men in ISKCON have kind of been trained to see women as inferior, demeaning them, like the men are the intelligent ones, and the men are, it's better to have a male body because it's more controlled and we're more emotional like that. So you can see where that can go. And then it just makes it harder for the men to be sexually controlled because, if the women are weaker or less, what does it do? Well, what's their value? Well, you can give men pleasure. You can look pretty and they can look at you and they can marry you and you can just serve them and they can, use you to enjoy. And that's not what Krishna consciousness is. But my whole point is that's what we're coming out of. And I'm not saying in Krishna consciousness necessarily men will get that, but sometimes they do to one degree or another. And some of you might say, wait a minute, they get that a lot. It depends when you became a devotee and where. I don't think they get it as much nowadays, but definitely get it in the culture. So many men who try to be celibate find it extremely difficult. And the reason is you can't do it unless you adopt the attitude of a celibate, which would be respectful towards women. The relationship you have with a woman is not exploitative. It's simply service. You either have no relationship or the relationship is service. The relationship is protection. Like in the early days, the Sankirtan parties, when they go on the street, the men were in the front, the men were in the back. This is the way Prabhupada wanted it, and the women in the center. It changed in some cases. Then the women ended up in the back, and the drunk men would start harassing them. But initially, that's how Prabhupada had it. And you'll see old videos, they're all lined up, and the men on the right, the men on the left, the women in the middle. So that's a relationship a man could have with protection. So this is an example. I don't want to make this whole class about how men deal with women. But my point is that if I am going to be successful at practicing Krishna consciousness, I can't just learn it without considering, while I'm learning it, what is the attitude that I'm supposed to have for this to actually manifest in my life. And often that attitude, as I'm saying, translates in how do you see this situation? How do you see this person? How do you see this gender? How do you see this race? If here we're just talking about the concept of respect, then we have to think, what does respect look like in terms of a vision, in terms of an emotion, in terms of an attitude, in terms of a belief, all these things. Because if we don't adopt it that way, if we don't make changes that way, then we see this phenomena going on, that I come to the Hare Krishna movement as a certain kind of conditioned soul, not only conditioned in this life, but many lives. And then I'm gaining knowledge, and I see, like, this is my conditioning. And my conditioning should start, it should start bending towards Krishna consciousness. But sometimes I get the knowledge, and the knowledge should be bending me, but it's not. I have the knowledge, and it's just banging into a wall. Try to make it straight. Banging into a wall, and nothing's changing. So definitely that's a powerful form of Maya. As you know, we're talking about Maya, and you may wonder what this has to do with Maya. Well, if Maya can't prevent you from hearing transcendental knowledge, but if she can prevent you from imbibing transcendental knowledge, then pretty much you're going to hear transcendental knowledge and it's not going to have a lot of effect on you. And if it doesn't have a lot of effect on you, the Maya says, ha ha, I've got you. You just heard Bhagavatam class every day for the last 10 years, and you are still like this. It's gone like this. And it never went like this because you never thought, what does this mean in terms of the way I see the world, the way I see myself, the way I see others, the way I treat others, the way I feel about others, the way I feel about these situations? How is that affecting me? And you think, maybe not a lot in every aspect of my Krishna consciousness. Maybe not as much as it should. And here is the solution. Because if you're trying to change something in terms of your behavior, if you're trying to change something in terms of how you see things, which then affect your emotions, which then affect your actions, you have to change how you see it. And the knowledge is meant to change how we see it. But if that knowledge doesn't change how we see it and we still see it the same way, then we still have the same emotional response, the same attitudes. And then what happens? We're kind of still the same person. Now, I've often said, you may be thinking, yeah, but you said you should act your way. You should, if you don't change internally, act your way. That's true, and it will change the internal. But a lot of times, people are not at this platform where they can act that way. Just like in this example we gave, this young man, he didn't want to marry a woman unless he was very, very physically attracted to her. Am I freezing? Do you see my picture freezing? Because I see it freezing. Anyway, I'm getting frustrated with my internet. It's supposed to be super, and it's not. So, so in this example, he really did, in that regard, some things, granted, they're easy to understand and they're easy to adapt to, but some things are not. Right? Some things, they don't change easily. And so when we're hearing, then we want to be thinking, okay, we want to kind of like dissect it and say, what does this mean in terms of understanding the whole consciousness? Let's say, for example, you read a story about, let's say, like we have Ambarish Maharaj, who didn't take offense when he was offended. Well, to say offended is to put it light, because Durvasa Muni tried to kill him. So yeah, he was offended. You offended me, Prabhu. What did I do? Well, you tried to kill me. But even Ambarish wasn't offended. And so we read the story. And how is that story going to benefit us? Well, sometimes we read the story and we just say, that is too transcendental for me. I mean, someone tried to kill me. I can't imagine not being offended. What to speak of, just saying, well, actually, it's, no problem at all. And I'm here to serve you. Like, how can we understand that? But then we have to start dissecting it and asking ourselves, okay, what is going on in the mind and heart of Ambarish Maharaj? What is he feeling? What is he, what is at the core of his behavior? So we can start to dissect his attitude, his beliefs, his feelings, his understandings, and then maybe start seeing, can I try those on for size? Can I start adapting my consciousness that way? Because let's say I have a problem with people who mistreat me. I have a problem forgiving. I have a problem with anger or retaliation or patience or tolerance, whatever it is. And so then I start dissecting, okay, what are the aspects of forgiving? What are the aspects of humility? What are the aspects of tolerance? What are the ingredients that I need in my consciousness so that it can be more tolerant? That's what we're supposed to do. But if we don't do that, then we read the story and then, 2 hours later we yell at somebody because they drove, took our parking spot or something. Have you ever got angry when your about to drive into a parking spot and someone just goes zoom and drives right in? Or do you chant, when that happens, do you chant, Trinada pisa nichena, Torora pisa hishnuna, Amanina, Manadena, Kirtanaya sadhari, and then drive around and find another parking spot? And by the way, if you find a parking spot that's far from the store, that's good because you need exercise, so you can walk further. So you should look for the spot far away, and then you get some exercise. And those of you who know me know that if there's a chance to take an elevator or walk up the stairs, I walk up the stairs. It's like, why not? It's another chance for exercise. So, but I'm sure you've all had that experience, right? You hear a class and it's like all about how the devotees are kind and compassionate and forgiving and tolerant, and you're feeling like inspired. Yeah, I need to be like this. And then someone takes your parking spot and you curse them to take 100 lives in hell as a lizard or something. So, where did that come from? Well, that came from before I was a devotee. That's how I used to feel. And so I heard the class, but I didn't really understand the consciousness of what it means to be kind or forgiving or whatever was spoken about in the class, because I didn't really dissect it. I didn't really look at, okay, why do I have this problem? What am I thinking? How am I seeing that's causing this problem? So if you think about that, you'll say, oh yeah, okay, now I can understand. If I start analyzing what's going on in my consciousness that I'm screaming at and cursing this person because they took my parking spot, like it's the end of the universe. And if I don't get that parking spot, I can't go back to Godhead or something. So we have to analyze like that and say, what are these components in my consciousness? And I start to see the various components that's causing me to act that way. And then I can understand, oh, okay. So what is the proper attitude? And I dissect and I analyze. Well, if I were more this way or more that way. And maybe you can't understand everything right away, but you at least begin the process and you start thinking about it. And then as you think about it, you gradually begin to understand it more and more. Okay, I'm going to look at the questions, comments. So, Ankush Kumar Singhal. Ajaynitai. Is that Ajaynitai? Is that I forgot if that was you, Ajaynitai. I remember a devotee saying the scriptures are good, but not practical for me, but I still like kirtans and devotees, yeah. So this is a common problem. And when you see that devotee next time, you can say, well, we had a class about this, and say that what was discussed in the class is that the practical part of the scripture becomes our work. Yeah, okay. So obviously, for most of us, if someone tries to kill us, it's unlikely we would forgive them on the spot. We would have some issues to deal with. And maybe the rest of our life we'd have an issue. This devotee or this person tried to kill me, or my brother tried to kill me, and so on and so forth. But so we're not trying to imitate Ambarish Maharaj, but we're trying to begin to understand what's going on inside of him, and what, to some degree, how can I adopt that? Maybe not 100%, but to what degree can I adopt the attitudes that he had? Because I need those attitudes. And the point is that if I don't develop those attitudes, then I'm pretty much living with my conditioning. You could say, well, I'm chanting and I'm doing so many things. Yes, that will purify me, but the knowledge is also meant to purify you. And sometimes the knowledge can purify something, can shift something that could take 30 years of chanting to shift, because you've dealt with it, you've confronted it, you've understood it, or you're trying to understand it. So what this devotee is saying is true, and that's my point. We read these things and it's just like it's in the clouds for us. We don't know how to make sense of it. But when you start asking, well, what's going on in his mind And what aspect of that, or to some degree, to what degree could I start applying that, and how would I do that? And then, which would make it easier for your friend to say, well, what's the attitude? How could you see things differently? Something that's practical and possible for us right now. That's how I would look at that. Okay. Otherwise you look at the situation and you think, I don't know how to relate to this because I couldn't respond that way. And then we say, okay, well, let's analyze what we think is going on, or what we're told from the story is going on. What's he thinking? What's he feeling? What's his attitude towards Durvasa? What are his beliefs about this situation? Then we start to understand he is seeing it like this. You go, oh, I never thought of that. I don't see things that way. Okay, how could I adopt that attitude? And then you see, according to you, what you can get from that. Otherwise you write it off as, this is Prabhu, this is way too transcendental for me. This Amrish Maharaj is way too transcendental for me. I can't imitate it. No, we know you can't imitate it. Nobody's saying imitate it. But Prabhupada said, you follow in the footsteps. That's different than imitating. You try to understand, what is it that I need to get from this story? Because someone said that, that books, you should, I forget the saying, but something about books. Instead of reading to change, instead of reading a book to change, let the book change you. That's what it's meant to do. So Jyotirmai has a question or a comment. What to do with the knowledge of all the shlokas of the Vedas of being an advanced devotee if we keep on looking people as flesh and bones? Put together nicely. I guess she's just repeating what I said. Can a woman respect and have faith in a man like this? Oh, I think you know the answer. She may not know he's like that, but when she finds out he's like that, she'll lose respect. What if tomorrow arrives a more beautiful woman? Should women devotees concentrate on our devotional service? Well, if you're around a man who finds a more beautiful woman tomorrow, runs off with her, just thank Krishna that he didn't stay with you. Should we concentrate on devotional service? I'm trying to remain young and beautiful, otherwise we just lose our husband. Well, this is such an interesting question, because if your husband is actually a husband, then you can be fat and ugly. Don't worry about it. Just, eat as much as you want. Don't wear makeup. Put on a white sari with a border, and he'll still love you. I'm saying that you should do that. It's a joke, but it's true. And if he's not controlled, then he wants you to dress beautifully so that you remain attractive, so he won't be attracted to other women. So he's probably somewhere in the middle of that, but someday, when he's more Krishna conscious, he'll be the top end of that. He won't care. And if he becomes less Krishna conscious, he'll go to the bottom end. And then you run the risk of not being attractive, that he's going to be attracted to another woman. And that's unfortunate. But again, if we're looking at what I said today, then I would say that he hasn't understood his position as a husband, as a man, and he's still seeing, women as objects of his enjoyment. And then that's never going to end. If a man sees women as objects of his enjoyment, then he'll always want new women, because one woman's not enough. Prabhupada said that. He said that there were various reasons for polygamy, but one of the reasons was that for most men, one's not enough. And Prabhupada had actually allowed polygamy for a while. And then he was told it's illegal. And then Prabhupada said, well, if it's illegal, we can't do it. And then he made a judgment on it. He said, actually, we are trying to become detached. So why would we encourage a man to increase his sexual, what do they say, sexual activity? Why would we encourage men to have more than one wife to increase their sexual activity when we're trying to detach from it? So that was his ultimate decision. So that's the direction he wanted us to go. So your question, Jyotirmai, plays into exactly what I'm saying. Yes, the man, the real man, the Krishna conscious man, will respect you, will help you in your Krishna consciousness. Even if you gain a little weight and you get a few wrinkles and your hair turns gray, nothing's going to change. The man who hasn't imbibed Krishna consciousness correctly, he's going to, his sexual desire is so strong, it's going to pull him away from you. And he's going to find another newer, younger model and trade you in for that one, unfortunately. So, buyer beware, or ladies beware of who you marry, because it's devastating. Problem is, men are wired like that. They're wired to be very attracted to women visually more than anything. And you women are thinking, but if they're Krishna conscious, they wouldn't think that way. And you're right. So find one who's Krishna conscious, because if you find one who looks like they're Krishna conscious, but on this level, and they may be Krishna conscious in other ways, but on this level they're not, you could run the risk that could happen. If the main reason a man is marrying is sexual, physical attraction, then, you're not going to remain physically attractive forever. And when you're 50, 60, he can find one 30, 40, the latest new improved model. Then you're in trouble, potentially. So Prabhupada's hope was that by this process and by the knowledge he's giving us, we would be strong spiritually, and that we would not have to deal with Maya. That was his hope. And you could see so many letters when he expressed disappointment in leaders who failed him in that way, who couldn't maintain their strength, and they gave in to breaking one of the regulative principles, or more than one. And he was very disappointed. And in order to have a movement that succeeds, he needs people who are strong. And that's why it's for me personally, I find it extremely discouraging when a devotee who is supposed to be learned and strong exhibits signs of weakness. Of course, we're human, we understand that. But it really lets Prabhupada down. Prabhupada, like we were talking, I think we were talking on Friday about, we were talking on Friday about understanding the heart of Prabhupada. And this, you will see by studying his letters, is really in his heart that he really wanted his devotees, especially his leaders, to be strong. He really not only wanted, he depended on them to be strong. And so he's giving us everything we need to develop the right attitudes to be strong. And so this whole talk is about that very problem, that we don't imbibe it. And therefore you find someone who's advanced, but their mentality is not totally aligned well in every aspect with Prabhupada's teaching. And then they're not seeing everything well. And a lot of it is just conditioning. Like I said, it's like, here's the conditioning. And And the knowledge is being thrown at it and nothing's happening. And Maha Mantra and nothing's happening. It's just like we're staying like a rock. That's the problem. It's the knowledge and the sadhana is meant to change us. So, yes. So ladies, if you're not married, be careful. You don't want a man who's just, it's like, it's a catch-22 because you want to make yourself beautiful to attract a man, but it's a catch-22 because now that you made yourself beautiful, you dress nicely, you wear a lot of makeup, you dye your hair, change the color of your eyes, wear beautiful nail polish, everything. You're like super attractive. And so many men are attracted to you. But the problem is it may be all the wrong men because that's what they're attracted to. So sometimes, if a woman's very beautiful, I might tell her, I said, you're really unfortunate that you're so beautiful. And they're like, actually, I've never told one that. I don't think I've told any. Now I'm telling you, if you're attractive, you're unfortunate. It's better you're not so attractive because you may attract the wrong men. They're attracted to your beauty. And your beauty, like a rose, will fade away someday. And then you've got a problem. And you'll say, yeah, but, when I'm 50, he'll be 55. Yeah, but he can get a 35-year-old when he's 55, even younger. So you're going to have competition. And you don't want to spend the rest of your life doing plastic surgery and doing severe tapasya to lose weight and going to the gym so you look good. Now, in the material sense, yeah, if he's a materialistic husband, yeah, that's what you should do. That's your duty. Look beautiful for your husband. That's there, But, the beauty of a woman in Krishna consciousness is not physical. So if the husband is just interested in physical beauty, at least you should understand the liabilities before you get married. And I have always felt that is not a mature way for a man to choose a wife, just based on physical, or primarily on it. It's not healthy. So we have a comment from Pamelita, somewhere in Mexico or South America. I feel that women were created to do everything man cannot. Together make a great team. It's a humble perception. If, yeah, it's true. As long as the man appreciates it and doesn't demean you because you can't do what he can do. Well, you could do some things he can do. He can do some things you can do. And you can do some things he can't do, and he can do some things you can't do. So as long as it's, like you say, a team, and he's not demeaning you, yeah, that's perfect. It's true. Women obviously have qualities, and men obviously have qualities, which are unique to the sexes. So they complement one another. But it has to be seen that way. Okay, we have some real life. We have some report from our correspondent in Lithuania, Kriste, with the latest news from ISKCON, Lithuania. Last week I encountered a fellow devotee who was aggressively arguing that a woman should never be Diksha Guru because her role is to be a mother and know how to cook. If she is Diksha Guru, then she will be surrounded by men, devotees who are not her husband. So what kind of decent woman is that? I actually quoted Prabhupada where he said in one interview that women can be Diksha Gurus, but he threw a bunch of quotes from Srila Prabhupada purport saying that doesn't mean, well, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but we had talked about this, I believe, I don't know, maybe a month ago, that we have a challenge, which is to respectfully disagree without becoming angry or demeaning the person we disagree with. So there's this tendency to demean the person we disagree with. Well, if you think women can be Diksha gurus, then you're just stupid and you're not loyal to Prabhupada and you don't understand the philosophy and you're just westernized and you have no culture. And of course, that's not true. That is why some women, some men are advocating that women should give initiation. They're advocating it not because they necessarily want women to be gurus, but they believe that's what Prabhupada wanted. So to think otherwise is very offensive. So, like you said, you can read the scripture and come up with another conclusion, and that's fine. But we should both be respectful. So when it grades to a disrespectful argument, then it is simply, this whole thing becomes tamasic. And so then it's kind of like, what's the use of your argument if the result of your argument is just you offending people and you're becoming angry? And anger is tamasic. So we understand that there are many devotees that feel like this devotee. That's fine. But ultimately, the GBC is going to decide whether he likes it or not. GBC will decide. And we have to respect that decision. And it's just like in any political race. One side wins and one side loses. And after, the person loses, he's supposed to say, I concede that I've lost and, I support the, new president and I, wish for the best. So, that's what we have to do. But if the GBC says, women can initiate, and then one woman starts initiating, and then all the antis get on the Facebook and start, painting pictures of this woman like some demon with horns and putting horns, because there's a devotee that does that, believe it or not. Well, he's not a devotee. He just dresses like one. And he has a devotee name. So, and he chants Hare Krishna. But he's not a devotee. Because devotees don't do those things. At least he's not a devotee when he does those things. So, if the conversation degrades into that level, then, what's the point? So this is the challenge. If we disagree with someone, to remain respectful. Okay, that's how you're a sincere devotee, and that's how you see it. And I respect that. It's not how I see it. It's not what I read. It's not the way I see Prabhupada's instructions. And the more he reads Prabhupada's instructions, the more he's convinced women shouldn't be gurus. And the more those who believe they should be read Prabhupada's instructions, the more they're convinced they should be. So it's, the answer for him, I don't know if you want to discuss with him because he sounds a little upset, and say, it's not a question, at this stage in ISKCON, it's not a question. This is not even the discussion anymore. This discussion has been had by devotees way more learned than you, and it's divided down the middle. Both sides have very strong reasoning. The discussion now is what to do. It's not, it's like what I think or what you think, it's been discussed by people smarter than us. So right now, we're looking at how we're going to keep united and how are we going to respect one another in spite of differences. That's the discussion. This discussion's been going on for like 15 years. It's been studied by devotees who know way more, who studied way more on this topic than most of us ever will in our lifetime. So for us, our challenge is not to offend the one and not to dislike the one who doesn't agree with us. I don't like that Prabhu. Why? Because he doesn't agree with me. I don't like him. That's like, think about it. Write that down on a piece of paper and look at that and see, does that make sense to you? I don't like him because he doesn't agree with me. That sounds like, how old are you? 3? 3.5? So, this conversation has to go beyond 3.5-year-old mentality. And unfortunately, these kinds of conversations degrade us to that mentality. They do. whether it's in ISKCON or outside of ISKCON. You can degrade it. Recently, we had this amazing thing happen in America where Donald Trump lost the election. And then he said, I didn't lose the election. It was all a hoax. It was all cheating. The Democratic Party, cheated in the election. They rigged the election. So everyone, even the people in his party, even his own son-in-law and daughter, is telling him it wasn't rigged. It was a legal election, and you have to concede defeat. He hasn't conceded defeat. He has to have people talking to him. So he degraded to a 3.5-year-old. I didn't lose. He was cheating me. I actually won the game. That's what 3-year-olds do. All right, we'll give him credit. 6-year-olds do it also. So, we don't want to degrade ourselves to that level. And it's Prabhupada said even sometimes acharyas disagree for various reasons. And the acharyas say that if advanced devotees disagree, don't take sides, because then if you take one side, you'll offend the other side. And then, so the suggestion is when they disagree, say you have to see the disagreement as transcendental. What does that mean? Well, they're both trying to do what they think Prabhupada wants. Right? So, he has a good argument that she'll be surrounded by all these men. Although practically speaking, from my own experience, the woman who would do it is like almost 70 years old, and most people she's preaching to will be 20 and under. So pretty much almost the age of her grandchildren. So it's not like a big problem. What about all the sannyasis who are surrounded by women? That's not a problem. Where's all the sexual predators? What gender are they in? They're men. So, it's like sometimes I joke. I say, there's a worry that a man becomes a guru and then he falls down. I go, well, I have a solution. The easy solution to that problem. Don't let any men become gurus. Just let women do it, because it's not going to happen with women, because they're not wired that way. A 70-year-old woman is not going to marry a 45-year-old male disciple. But a 70-year-old male guru could, and it's happened. Well, maybe not that much difference. But some male gurus have married, female disciples 10, 20 years younger. Not really going to happen with a woman. So, that's my solution to the guru fall down problem. Just from this day, a moratorium on male gurus. No more male gurus. Finished. If you're a man, sorry. You can't control yourself. Only female gurus. I have solutions to every problem. If to end terrorism, just you turn all the Islamic people into Hindus, because Hindus aren't into fighting, or turn them into atheists. Better turn them into Hindus. Atheism is more of a problem. But if you turn them into atheists, they would have nothing to fight for. So another simple solution to a major problem. Okay. I am the person who steals the parking slot. Oh, we hate you, Saradiya Rasa. Okay, we have to do a forgiveness process on Saradiya Rasa. I can see her now stealing my parking spot. I hate when people steal my parking spot. What I always say is, when something happens to us that's difficult to tolerate, then we should immediately see fantastic opportunity to become humble. Thank you for stealing my parking spot. You've just given me a chance to not give in to my animalistic nature that wants to get out of my car, pull you out of your car, and punch you. Of course, that's a very male response. I don't think women respond that way. Generally, they just kind of hold it in and get frustrated or something. But men, they express their frustration with punches in the nose. But instead of expressing the frustration, you think, let them go. That's fine. It gives me a chance to, Trinadapi Sunicina. And we're, we generally think, well, Trinadapi Sunicina means, for devotees, but no, it means for everybody. That's why we don't step on an ant. Trinadapi Sunicina. Oh, just an ant, step on you. What's the problem? If you die, there's no loss to the world. No, we don't step on ants. We respect everyone. If we're supposed to respect an ant, you're going to respect the person who steals your parking spot, right? I would think. Makes sense. Isn't this philosophy amazing? How poorly we apply it? It's such an amazing philosophy, and we apply it so poorly, isn't it? Yeah. Christina says, I guess first thing we should understand and be asked when we come to Krishna consciousness movement is if we want to compromise and transform ourselves to actually go on the path. Yeah, at least when it's time for initiation, that we have to consider that. You actually want to do this work, because sometimes it's difficult, and it's and pervertedly, it's sometimes easier to be in Maya, because it takes less fighting against the current. Because to be Krishna conscious, we're going against the current. To be in Maya, we're going with the current. Although the current's going to crash, take us somewhere where we're going to crash, but it seems like a nice ride on the way. And we don't have to paddle upstream, so we can relax for a while. That's the problem. So especially, what you say is true, especially if you're going to live in a temple, and especially if you want to take formal initiation and surrender, which is not easy. You really want to surrender. Guru Maharaj, I want to get initiated. Really? You want to surrender? You want to do what your guru says? And you think about it, and they're saying, yeah, I do. But in reality, after they get initiation, and that day when the guru asks them to do something, that's really hard for them. They realize, oh, this is not as easy as I thought. And sometimes Prabhupada says things, and it's like, for me, it's like a thunderbolt. It's like, wow, that's so hard to accept. He just said this. Yeah, it's not, but I'm the disciple. I have to accept it. It does, this is like, it's blown my world apart that Prabhupada said this. I have to understand, what does he mean by this? Like when Prabhupada said they didn't go to the moon, that blew apart the world of many. And there's still the discussion whether he actually meant they did or they didn't. It's very hard to accept for many devotees. Not for everybody, but for some, yeah. So, Christina, where are you from? That last name, I can't place it. What country is it? I lost admiration for some devotees because of misused verses that even common sense shows us differently. Knowledge is not just to be able to speak, you must feel and act on it. Yes. Yeah, it's true. If someone misconstrues a verse, it is a problem to be able to hear from them. It's I think one of the challenges of being in an organization, because we need the association of devotees, but sometimes devotees may say or do something that we feel isn't representative of Prabhupada, and then it becomes hard. It becomes hard to associate with those devotees. And as we had discussed earlier, a few days ago, maybe we discussed that sometimes you can't associate with those devotees closely because you are a different person than they are. I was listening to one of my godbrothers speak, and he was saying some things, and I was thinking, I think so much differently than he does. And my conclusion was, the world he lives in and the world I live in are very different in the sense of the way I see the world and the way he sees the world, and also the experience and what country he lives in and his experience as a human and his experience as a devotee, and the directions that I'm growing, the directions he's growing, we're like totally different, completely. So it doesn't mean we don't agree on things, but some things we will just have different views. And so naturally, he's not going to be, my best friend. I wouldn't, but it doesn't mean I have to dislike him or disrespect him. So we need association, and he's a great devotee. But for me, it's like when you eat, you like certain things. So it doesn't mean I don't like beets. It doesn't mean I'm offending beets. I don't know why I don't like them. It's in my DNA or something. So I don't like beets, but I'm not offending them. My wife and daughter love beets, so I respect the beets on their plate. But I don't respect the beets on my plate. They have to be on someone else's plate for me to actually properly respect them, because if they're on my plate, I look at them and I go, I don't like them. And you're all thinking, how could you not like beets? They're so or you call it beetroot in Europe. How could you not like it? It's so delicious. I don't know why I don't like it. As long as it's on your plate, I like it. I don't like it on my plate. So sometimes with the devotees, it's like, as long as you're on that side of the universe, I'm fine with you. I respect you. So the challenge, Christine, is not to make offenses to people who, may say something in class that you feel is not properly representing Krishna consciousness or representing Prabhupada. And one thing you can take solace in, that devotee, especially if they're younger, 10, 20 years from now, they won't be saying that. It's a good chance they won't be saying that exactly the way they said it now. They will grow and mature. And we've seen this in our own experience. Some of the devotees who were very much thinking this way when they got older went the other way because they realized that was wrong. And they apologized to devotees. Okay, our reporter from Lithuania is going to transcribe this lecture. So Christina says, the Krishna conscious women never get old. They're always beautiful. It's true. Their consciousness is always beautiful. And it shines through their beautiful faces. Okay, I have to say something, ladies. I have to say something. That there are two kinds of female beauty, or maybe more than two. And it is true for men as well, but especially because men are attracted to the physical beauty of a woman. It can be very sexually disturbing to be associated with a beautiful woman. But there's a kind of beauty that a woman has that actually dissolves a man's sexual stimulus or sexual attractions. So there's a pure, what I would call purifying beauty, and I would call sexual beauty. And I told this story once. I went to I think Singapore Airlines in Calcutta, their office, and there was a woman dressed in a sari, Indian woman, and as soon as I walked in, I thought, oh my God, this woman is beautiful. But it was a different kind of beauty. It was like this chaste, pure, covered with sari, very polite. And she was probably older than me, so it wasn't like I was thinking, oh, this is a sexy woman. But aside from that, it was just, she had a very beautiful radiance that I couldn't avoid noticing, but it had no sexual effect on me. And then at that point I said, yes, that's the kind of beauty women should have. They're very beautiful and attractive, but it's not sexual. So, how you dress, how you look, how you carry yourself, the vibration that comes from you can be very purifying for men or very agitating. So watch out for that beauty. Okay, Tanya says, throughout my life, there were occasions in which I tried to somehow act better or more advanced than I was at the moment, according to my intellectual understanding of what was the proper thing to do. Each time it ended very badly, both for myself and others, because I couldn't keep up long-term with something that I wasn't deeply prepared for. I guess I had the jnana aspect down, but not the vigyan. Similarly, when we read the scriptures, in the start, we get only an intellectual understanding of various topics, but the actual deep realization that enables us to naturally start acting differently takes a lot longer to develop. Is there a way to start applying the knowledge we haven't yet deeply realized? Yeah. The answer to your question is that you answer the last sentence. She's asking, is there a way to start applying the knowledge we haven't yet deeply realized, but in a healthy way? And I would say the gist of this class is that that's the question you have to take home and answer. Everything you're reading, everything that's going on, ask this question. Is there a way to start applying? And as I was saying, I think the one thing that I think is very important in this conversation, and which is how I started out. I don't know if you were there in the beginning, but how I started out was that the knowledge is meant to change your vision of it. Because how are you going to change if you still see it the same way? So I think women, you all exist for my pleasure. That's the only reason you exist. You have no other purpose. It's just to satisfy me. That is the essence of the male sexual desire, which is fed the pornography industry. These women exist for my pleasure. That's all. They're just objects for my gratification. So that's how I was raised. Now I become a brahmachari, join ISKCON. That mentality is not going to work if I want to be a brahmachari. So then I have to ask myself, well, what is the mentality that's going to work? If this is the knowledge, celibacy, if women are mother, if I'm to respect all living entities, then how am I going to see women differently based on this knowledge? So that's the question you ask yourself. And then naturally answers will come up. What does it mean to see women as mother? What does it mean to be humble? What does the word respect mean in relation to women? What would that be? What would be a respectful attitude? What would be a respectful behavior? So you start dissecting, you ask yourself the questions. And ultimately, the way I see it is, what shifts am I making so that I see things in a way that would then inspire me to act properly? Because if I don't see it that way, I'm going to act in the wrong way. I'll act according to my vision. So as long as I see that all these women are meant for my enjoyment, this would be virtually impossible to remain celibate. But if I see I'm a servant, I respect all living entities, women are like mother, etc., and that's my vision, then on the emotional level, I respond to that vision emotionally, because that's how it works. Your emotions are a response to the stories you tell yourself about what you're confronting. So what's your story? Women are mother, or women are my servant? Well, your story is what you will act upon. It's where your emotions will come from. So that's the way I see it. Like, what can you do to create the vision and the story that enables you to act properly? Like if the Shastra says you should act this way, okay, so what's the vision that I need to develop that would then align with that kind of action? Okay, I'll say that again because I think that's summarized more clearly. What is the vision I would need that would cause me to align my actions and mentality with what I'm reading in Scripture? So I think that's the key. What's the vision? The vision. What's the vision I need? Does that make sense? I want to act this way. Okay, well, how will you need to see the world to act that way? What do you have to do to act that way? That's the question. Does that make sense? I don't want to be envious of this person. Okay, well, how do I have to see them to not be envious? Oh, I have to appreciate them. See that what they're doing is inspiring to me, rather than me thinking, I don't like them because they can do what I can't do. I have to shift the vision. So shift the vision, it's a new story, new response. So I want to get my story aligned with the philosophy. Okay, if this is the philosophy, what's my story? Oh, this guy just drove in, Sardiya Rasa just drove in my parking space. What's the story? Oh, let her have it. She's probably in a rush, and and I can walk, and gives me a chance to do some service. That's the story. That's your new story. Because that's your new story, your response is different. I think that's the essence. I guess that's what I was trying to say for the last hour, and I finally said it concisely. Christina, when we're not able to change, at least acknowledge that it's important and not act as a very advanced person. Mm, 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 yeah. But I would say we can always change something. A little bit, maybe not as much as we thought we could, but we can change. Okay, Meg Vinyasa. I lost my faith, or should I say having no hope, while seeing full-time devotee criticized Grihastha devotees as fallen. But the end dropped out of the temple for women and claimed himself to be just following what Prabhupada said. I'm so confused. Okay, I will deconfuse you right now. Okay. Let me read it again so I want to get clear. I'm not sure, but I lost my faith, I should say, having no hope while seeing a full-time devotee criticize Grihastha devotees as fallen. At the end, dropped out of the temple. I don't understand that. Dropped out of the temple for women and claimed himself to be. I guess the temple's all women and he's better or something. Or claimed himself, I'm just following what Prabhupada said. Oh yeah, right. So, Meg Vinyasa, welcome to a religious movement. And within the religious movements, you will find that people understand Prabhupada often because of what they understood about life before they were devotees. So, obviously, this man has some issue with women. Probably, if you went into his past or past lives, you would find some problem there, because Prabhupada never said you can't be Krishna conscious as a Grihastha. So he's got some issue. That's how we see it. It's like, okay, he's entitled to his own opinion, but he's definitely got some issues with women. We had talked about an interesting fact that where you get the most support for female gurus is in the West. Where you get the least support for it is in India. More conservative, different values. If you do a survey, and I read the surveys, I study this stuff. I'm almost obsessed with it because it's such a problem. I read a survey about attitudes towards women in India. And one of the questions was, is it okay for a husband to beat his wife? And they gave certain conditions. If she doesn't keep the house clean, if she talks back, if she doesn't cook dinner, if she cheats on him, etc., etc. I went down the list. And the interesting, so it's about 50% of the men said yes to at least one or more of those. Or maybe it was 60%. And 49% of the women said yes to it also. I don't think you'll find that in the Western culture if you do that. Maybe amongst very traditional Christian you'll find, but outside that you won't. So how we're looking at the philosophy is very much reflected on our upbringing, right? This is the place for men, this is the place for women. There should not be female gurus because, in our culture, women are always at home taking care of kids. That was their place. Now we have women liberation, feminism. It's creating so many problems. It may be creating so many problems, but that doesn't. It shouldn't filter through what Prabhupada actually said about something. But when we have those cultural filters, they get applied to what Prabhupada said. So that's what you're seeing, Meg. And the good news, Meg, is not everybody thinks like him. And even the better news is Prabhupada doesn't think like him. And so here we have this amazing phenomenon, Meg, that somebody can quote Prabhupada to say something that Prabhupada never said. Quoting Prabhupada to insist on that, let me say it differently. People will quote Prabhupada to establish us doing something that Prabhupada never did. Think of that one. That's interesting, isn't it? Welcome to a religious organization. You will find many interesting things going on. So our job, Meg, is to try to make the institution better, bring it to a higher level, bring these issues up and discuss them. And so you may wonder, some of you devotees may wonder, is like, why do I discuss these issues? I don't discuss these issues to try to correct them. I discuss them for you so you don't create those problems. That's why the only reason I discuss it is for your understanding, not for you to look at every leader and go, oh, look what they're doing. Mahatma Prabhu said this. No, I'm talking to you so that you don't do it, because we can't control what other people do. You can control what you do. So when I bring up these issues, I see you as the future of ISKCON. So I'm telling you, this is what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing for a better ISKCON. So the response, Meg, for a situation like this is that I have to make ISKCON better. And I understand why this devotee may say these things or feel these things, but he's wrong. And he's filtering it through some conditioning. You know, there's a lot of men that they just don't like women for whatever reason. So naturally, if they don't like women, they're going to, say some things about women that aren't kind. Maybe also about Grihastha life. And they end up saying things, or specifically treating women, dealing with women in ways Prabhupada never did, using Prabhupada's words to do it. That's unfortunate, but it happens. And all I can say to you, Meg, is don't do that. Learn from this devotee. Okay, you feel this devotee's made a mistake? Learn. Say, this is what his mistake is, and I don't want to commit that mistake. Now, if you feel that his mistake is hurting or harming other people, then you should bring it to the leaders and say, he is saying things which are not true, which are harmful, hurtful. Can you do something about it? Can someone talk to him? You can do that also. But just don't go up and slap him in the face. That's not a solution. Although you may feel like it. Maybe it is a solution, but I don't think so. Of course, the Chinese, Meg's in China, the Chinese women are pretty powerful. They keep those guys under control. So maybe that would work in China. I don't know. If you want to experiment with it, I wouldn't recommend it. But okay, on Kush. How can we practice Krishna consciousness by becoming a unified movement, by treating everyone equally instead of everyone wants to become gurus and everyone following Prabhupada? I sometimes think Ritviks are better than us. Please enlighten us. I don't understand the question, how the Ritviks got in there. Well, I think we discussed how to become unified, so I think I answered that question. I wish everyone wants to become guru, because we only have 100 and we need like 10,000. So I don't think that's a reality that everyone wants to become a guru. That is not our problem. Everyone wants to become God. That's another thing. But becoming guru is a lot harder than becoming God. So we just want to be controllers, tell people what to do. But if that's what you mean by everyone wants to become gurus, like leaders, and of course, when we say people aren't following Prabhupada, well, that's, according to your definition of what Prabhupada wants. The Ritviks have some, not that they don't have some good things going for them. They just don't believe Prabhupada ever asked people to be gurus, which is not verifiable by anything Prabhupada said, and it is provable that Prabhupada did ask people to be gurus many times, using the word, "They are your disciples. They are disciples of my disciples." Like what's ambiguous about that? And the Ritviks twist it around. Oh, the benefit of the Ritvik is that Prabhupada is clearly the leader, and ISKCON realizes that. We can have thousands of gurus, but Prabhupada should clearly be the leader, and all the gurus are surrounding him and bringing their disciples to him to help them serve. But you have to be initiated by a living guru. That's just a fact. That's irrefutable, which is why Ritvik is upper sampradaya. Having said that, it doesn't mean they can't do great things, because Prabhupada is so fantastic. If you put Prabhupada in the center, you can't lose. But one thing that's not in the center is his instruction to take initiation from the living guru. So if that weren't the case, probably, and they would stop criticizing devotees, yeah, we could congratulate them for being so dedicated to Prabhupada. Yeah, okay, so Christe is not going to punch that devotee in the face, at least not verbally or otherwise. How can we understand that there are senior devotees who appear to have symptoms of prema bhakti, but sometimes they're very rude with some devotees and can perturb them? I don't think you can understand. But I don't know any senior devotees who have prema bhakti. Please let me meet them, because if they have prema bhakti, then hanging out with them, whether they're rude or not, will purify you. But actually, if they're rude, generally I would say they don't have prema. They've got a ways to go. Unless the rudeness is transcendental and it has a beneficial effect. And they're doing it purposefully to help that devotee. Yeah. Probably I would say that it's not prema yet. The answer is because we're human beings and we still have some human nature. And maybe that's their nature, to be rude. And then you're trying to think, well, how is that? If they're pure devotees, they could be rude. Well, sometimes, we have our nature. It comes out even though we're very elevated. That's another answer. Misquoting scripture for one's advantage. That's Maya on megasteroids, yeah. I like saying it the other way. That was Sri Dhananamar said. Something like that. You use Prabhupada's quotes to conclude something Prabhupada never concluded. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? The problem is not wanting to become a guru. The problem is that everyone wants to become God, yeah. This is out of the most... The best thing I said. What Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, when the devotees didn't get along, he said, the problem is you all want to become God. Yeah. It's definitely the problem is everyone not want. The problem is everyone doesn't want to become guru. And the problem is everyone wants to become God. We have no problem with gurus. The more the merrier. As long as we're pure. Okay, we have 2 minutes. What do we do now? If this were a Zoom call, we could see you all. But we're not zooming around. So how did this video go today? Did it freeze up on you? I'm testing my internet. I have the most unstable internet. It's just gambling every day that I can do it on my computer and it will work. It's easier on my computer, so I don't have to go to the phone and do all that. So did it freeze up on you? Because it froze up on me sometimes. You didn't notice? I have to wait 20 seconds. I have to wait some time to get your answer. We're slightly delayed. You can say, somebody just say yes or no. Yes, it froze. No, it didn't. Or it froze once in a while, but not much. Because I don't always look at my picture. It was good, the video. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you all for watching. Tomorrow I have a meeting. So class will resume on Wednesday. And we may have class tomorrow night in Spanish, but I don't know if that is settled yet. We're still waiting. I'm not sure. Anuradha, do you know if it's been settled? Oh, wow. Okay, we have real life. We have a real life from Saradiya Rasa. Yeah. Maybe we should change this show. We called it Laugh Your Way Back to Godhead, but I haven't been telling jokes anymore. Maybe we should call it Real Life. What do we have that say? Real reality for real people. One of you came up with a quote. Real Krishna consciousness for real people. Now, that would sound demeaning for the unreal people. Okay. Refer to a comment. This is from Saradiya Rasa. To refer to a comment you made earlier, my ex-devotee partner decided to end our relationships, as he said, although he thought I was a great partner. He wanted to be with a curvy Asian woman. Are you ladies like totally disgusted now? Okay. Saradiya Rasa. Before he said that, on a scale from 1 to 10, how Krishna conscious did you think he was? And she's going to say, I thought he was very Krishna conscious. And that makes my point, because I know who she's talking about. And he is Krishna conscious. Saradiya says, if Anuradha, if it's going to be this Tuesday, then you can announce it. And I don't know, is it going to be 7 or 8 p.m.? We talked about making it later. But I think the next one is just for disciples. I think that's the plan. I'm not sure. Don't announce anything till you sort it out with Prem Kishore. Okay. Saradiya Rasa says, your comment, I should be grateful that he ended the relationship as he was too concerned about the external appearance of women and not able to appreciate the sensual qualities of a devotee partner. Yeah, it's true, because if you get in a relationship with a man like that and they end up cheating on you, real philosophy for real people. But then the connotation is, if you don't listen to my class, you're not real. Do you think that would be demeaning? Sat philosophy for sat. What is that? What do they call? Sat darshan for sat jana. Sat darshan, sat jana. Real philosophy, real people. That's the Sanskrit. Okay. But I think on the right, it's just going to be for disciples tomorrow night. We have to confirm that. Okay, we're going to end now. You got 3 minutes extra for no extra price. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo. See you next time.